Thank you. Please be seated. Good morning to all of you. This is certainly a joyous day and a joyous occasion for those of us who have a love affair for learning and who believe that quality education is a great hope for our future. Today is indeed a great day. I welcome all of you. President Vartan Gregorian of Brown University is here. David Kearns, a number of such important guests that I won't try to mention you all. We're going, as you know, to the Willard to have more of a press meeting over there, and everybody will be presented. We do have two governors here representing governors' groups, Roy Romer and Jim Edgar. It's good to have you all. I'm going to make just a brief remark, and followed by Ambassador Annenburg, and then the President will share some words with you about his deep appreciation in behalf of the American people for this very significant gift. Let me begin on a note of personal gratitude. I've spent most of the last decade, like so many of you here in this room, pushing this heavy boulder called education reform uphill. And at times I felt like the proverbial undertaker releasing report after report, the many trials, the many tribulations that we faced. Ambassador Annenburg and Madam Ambassador Annenburg met with the President and the First Lady a moment ago and announced the largest single gift ever made in the history of this great country to American public education. A $1.5 billion 5-year challenge to this nation designed to energize and support promising school reform throughout this entire country. What a wonderful gift it is to all of us and to our future. Mr. Ambassador, you've given much more than your financial backing. You've told the American people that public school reform is a place to put their energy, that this effort has immense value for the future of this nation. And I tell you, you're exactly right. Our young people have a new set of aspirations that we are beginning to see, a new set of expectations. They want to go to college. They realize it's important for them to have an education in order to take their place in this new information era. And I tell you, this can only happen unless we have world-class education. If we end this kind of conspiracy of low expectations and recognize that equity and excellence are not incompatible. Mr. Ambassador, the President and I plan to meet your challenge. We all in this country have part of the challenge, but to help meet it by working hard to pass our Goals 2000 legislation when the Senate returns in January, and then School to Work after that, which fits into this framework, Safe Schools Act, and the reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Act, and other major education measures, all fitting into this same framework that this great gift will help us so much with. All of us working together in so many ways to define new standards of excellence and to help young people reach high academic standards. There are many values to private philanthropy. It's free from government restraint, free to push ahead of the cutting edge of reform, way before usually the political or the governmental consensus can be formed. and it can be a real challenge to our nation to move forward in education. So today we're at a rare moment when a strong bipartisan consensus has been formed regarding the need of a world-class education for every single child. We have the opportunity then to pick up the pace of reform together, to be mutually reinforcing. If we are all in the same direction, and I want to assure the President and Mr. and Ms. Annenburg that we will work closely to cooperate and complement the good work of David Kearns in the New American Schools, Ted Sizer at the Institute of School Reform, and others that he has designated for us to be involved with. And this must be done quickly. For like all of you, I'm so troubled at the growing despair of so many young people. They aren't just dropping out of school in many cases, but many seem to be giving up on America. And there's almost a direct correlation, as we can notice, of dropping out of school and leading this life of despair, of violence, of poverty, of spiritual numbness. And I remain astonished at this realization that 82% of all the people in our prisons are high school dropouts, 82%. And that's why any effort, public or private, to strengthen our especially urban schools is one of the most important areas. Strong schools can become a way out of this despair, a safe, strong place where young people can find order and meaning and even hope for their lives. So finally, let me say a quote from George Eliot, who described the ultimate goal of life: to influence the standards of mankind for generations to come. To influence the standards of mankind for generations to come. Mr. Ambassador, with your gift to the young people of America this morning, and with your challenge to this great nation to join with you, you have indeed influenced the American people's standards for generations to come, and for that we all thank you. And now it's my pleasure to present a great American who loves this country and who this morning announced the largest gift ever to K-12 education. I'd like to ask Ambassador Annenburg if he'd please come forward and make some remarks.
President, Mrs. Clinton, Mr. Secretary, distinguished Americans, all of you, I'm delighted to be with you. I'm very proud to be here. This is very moving for me, and I'm sure you can understand why I am disturbed about what is going on in our country. I am deeply troubled by the violence in some grade schools and high schools. And if this continues, it will not only erode the educational system, but will destroy our way of life in the United States. Now, that's a pretty strong statement, but I believe that. We have got to reverse what is going on in our country. It's obligatory. We must ask ourselves whether improving education will halt the violence. If anyone can think of a better way, we may have to try that. But the way I see this tragedy, education is the most wholesome and effective approach. I do not believe the Annenburg Foundation's $500 million challenge grant over 5 years will do the whole job. This must be a challenge to the nation. At this point, I can't see any other way to guarantee our nation's future. A number of foundations and corporations already are providing funds to aid schools in what has become a nationwide education reform movement. It will take individual giving, corporate giving, and foundation giving to do the job. I believe those who control sizable funds should feel an obligation to join this crusade for the betterment of our country. That's my state. That's where
Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. And as I look around the room and see so many important friends of education and leaders in this country, it makes me so proud to see you all here. It's my pleasure now to present the President. I've known the President and the First Lady for many years. They're good people. They are wonderful friends of education. They believe in the important power of education, and then that is the way to move this country forward with excitement and vigor. As Henry James once said, education is not just learning a few inert facts. Our President understands that and believes it. It's my pleasure to present the President of the United States.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Secretary Riley and Secretary Mrs. Benson, Deputy Secretary of Education Madeline Kunin. I want to mention some of the people who are here. I'm glad to see Senator Kennedy, Senator Pell, and Congressman Reed here, and my former colleagues and friends, Governor Romer and Governor Edgar, Dr. Gregorian and David Kearns and Ted Sizer and Frank Newman, and so many people that I've worked with over the years. When Walter Annenburg was giving his very brief statement, it reminded me of a comment that the president with the best developed mind, Thomas Jefferson, once said. He said, "You know, if I had more time, I could write shorter letters." So I think he said all that needed to be said. Walter and Lenore Annenburg have done a remarkable and truly wonderful thing on this day in giving the largest private gift in American history to the future of America's children. It could not have come at a better time. In a moment, all of you will repair to another place and discuss in greater details exactly what this gift will do and how it will be done. But since I spent the better part of my life in public service laboring to improve public education, I want the press and the American people to know that there are two things that are important about this gift: its size and the way the money is going to be spent. It could not come at a better time, 10 years after the issuance of a Nation at Risk report. And on the eve, we all earnestly hope, of the passage of our Goals 2000 Act, which attempts to put into law a mechanism by which the United States can achieve the national education goals adopted by the governors and by the Bush administration jointly in 1989. In our legislation, we attempt to set high academic standards, to give our country world-class schools, to give our children a way to fulfill their dreams instead of their nightmares. Along with the other things we've tried to do, reforming the student loan program, opening the doors of college to everyone, trying to develop a national system of moving from school to work for those who don't go to college, pushing a Safe Schools Act so that we don't have 160,000 kids stay home every day because they're afraid to go to school, establishing a system of lifetime learning. These things make a real difference. But if I have learned one thing in all the years and all the countless hours that Hillary and I have spent in public schools all across this country, it is that the true magic of education in the end occurs between teachers and students and principals and parents, those who care about what happens in the classroom and outside the classroom. And one of the things that has plagued me all these years is seeing all the successes, because I tell you, I have tried to focus the American people in the last several weeks on the crime and violence that is consuming so many millions of our young people. But what is important for America to know is that there is another reality out there. There are two realities that are at war one with the other. There is the reality that we all see of the too many guns and too much violence and schools that don't function. There is another reality. In the most difficult circumstances you can find anywhere in this country, there are children and parents who obey the law, who love their country, who believe in the future, and who are in schools working with teachers who are succeeding by any standard of international excellence against all the odds. Therefore, it is clear that the most pressing need in this country today, the most pressing need is to have a standard of excellence by which all of us can judge our collective efforts down to the smallest schoolroom in the smallest community in America. And then to have a system to somehow take what is working against all the odds and make it work everywhere. All these people who are in this room who have devoted their lives to education are constantly plagued by the fact that nearly every problem has been solved by somebody somewhere, and yet we can't seem to replicate it everywhere else. Anybody who has spent a serious amount of time thinking and looking about this knows that that is the central challenge of this age in education. That's why Ted Sizer has devoted his career to establishing a system which can be recreated and adapted to the facts of every school. That's why David Kearns left a brilliantly successful career in business and wrote a book about what works in reinventing schools. That's why my friend Frank Newman stopped being a university president and went to the Education Commission of the States, and every year hounded governors like me to help him, because we knew that there were examples that worked, and nobody has unraveled this mystery. That's why people often run for governor and stay governors of states, believing that we can somehow have the alternative reality that is out there prevail in the end. And the way this money is going to be allocated is just as important as how much money is being offered. Because Walter Annenburg has challenged the rest of us to match his efforts today, and in a way is challenging America to realize that there are millions of good kids and good teachers and good efforts being made out there, and the time has come for us to say, here are the national standards, here is a way of measuring whether we're meeting them, and here is a way of recognizing that in reality, all these things have to happen school by school, neighborhood by neighborhood, student by student. And what is our excuse when we can give you 100 examples of where it's working for not having thousands and thousands and thousands of examples for where it's working? That is the magic of what is being done. This is a very, very important day for American education and for America's future. And the people of the United States will forever be in the debt of these two fine people. Thank you very much.